The SOS that awakened humanity's sleeping war titans. Year 2187. Space was quiet. After fighting wars among the stars, humans had lived in peace for almost 50 years. People from Earth had built homes on 17 planets around different stars. They talked and traded with 6 different alien groups. The giant warships that once protected humans now floated around Earth as museums and living spaces. Their weapons were turned off, their crews long gone. Commander Ellie Wright yawned as she watched the screens at Communication Relay Station Delta 9. Her job was to listen to messages from the far corners of space where humans lived. Most days were boring. Today was not. A strange pattern appeared on her screen. It repeated itself, growing stronger. The computer said it matched no known signal from any friendly aliens. "Harris, come look at this," she called to her assistant. "Sam." Harris leaned over her shoulder, his face reflecting the pulsing light of the screen. "Never seen anything like it. Running it through the filters now. For 3 days they worked to understand the message. They barely slept. They forgot to eat. Finally they cracked it." "It's from New Haven," Wright said, her voice tight. New Haven was the farthest human colony, a beautiful world with oceans and forests where 30,000 people lived. The message was broken but clear enough. Overwhelming force. Orbital bombardment. Civilians targeted. Request immediate military. Then nothing. No more messages came from New Haven. Wright sent the recording to Earth right away. Soon, other reports arrived from nearby colonies. Strange ships had been seen, black as space itself, moving in ways that seemed impossible. On Earth, the Security Council gathered in their round meeting room. 20 men and women from different countries sat around a large table. They represented all of Earth. They looked worried. Admiral Peter Grayson walked slowly to the front of the room. His hair was white, his face lined with age. He had fought in the First Contact War when humans first met hostile aliens 50 years ago. He was one of the few commanders still alive who had actually fought in space. "New Haven is silent," he said simply. "We have tried all channels. No response." Bondlane. Room was quiet. Minister Susan Miller spoke first. "Could it be a technical problem, a solar flare?" "The message specifically mentioned orbital bombardment and military help," Grayson replied. "And now 3 nearby colonies report seeing unknown vessels entering their systems." Defense Minister Susan Miller frowned. "What do we know about these ships?" "Very little," Grayson admitted. "They don't match any known designs from our allies. They appear suddenly, observe, and vanish." "Recommendations?" asked the council president. Grayson took a deep breath. "We need to reactivate the war fleet." The room erupted in voices. Miller stood up. "Those ships are relics, museum pieces. We've moved beyond that chapter of our history. We have defensive systems on all colonies now." "With respect, Minister," Grayson replied, his voice calm but firm. "New Haven had defenses too. Whatever hit them was stronger. Our peacetime ships are not built for war. They would be destroyed quickly. The Titans were built to fight and win against superior forces," he continued. "They were designed to last centuries. Their systems are still intact. And their crews?" "The crews are old men and women by now," someone interrupted. "No," Grayson said. "The crews are exactly as they were 50 years ago, in suspended animation, waiting. They volunteered to sleep, to be ready if humanity ever faced extinction again." The council president looked troubled. "You want to wake them? People who have been asleep for 50 years. "I do," Grayson nodded. "They are the only ones with real combat experience against advanced alien forces. They know those ships better than anyone alive today." The debate lasted hours. Finally, they voted. By a margin of just 2 votes, Operation Lazarus was approved. Deep inside Earth's moon, in dark halls carved from rock, Dr. Alan Carter walked past rows of sleeping pods. Each one held a person, perfectly preserved, not aging. These were the veterans of the First Contact War. The best pilots, engineers, gunners, and officers humanity had ever trained. They had volunteered to sleep, to be ready if they were ever Needed again. Carter stopped at the first pod in the officer section. The metal plate read, Captain Olivia Bennett, USS Defiance. Bennett had been the youngest fleet commander in Earth history. She had won 3 major battles against overwhelming odds. When peace came, she was the first to volunteer for long-term stasis, beginning revival process, Carter said to his medical team. Start with Captain Bennett. The pod hummed as it warmed. Its clear cover slid back, releasing a cloud of steam. Inside, a woman with short brown hair and a determined face lay perfectly still. Then her chest rose as she took her first breath in 50 years. Carter checked her vital signs on his tablet. All normal. Captain Bennett, he said as her eyelids began to flutter. I'm afraid we need you again. Bennett's eyes opened suddenly. They were alert, focused. It was as if she had only been asleep for a night, not half a century. How bad? She asked, her voice slightly raspy from disuse. New Haven is gone. Unknown hostiles, no communication, no survivors detected. 3 neighboring systems have gone, silent in the 8 days since the attack. Bennett sat up slowly, muscles working well thanks to the electrical stimulation the pod had provided all these years. Her expression remained calm, but her fingers gripped the edge of the pod tightly. My ship? The USS Defiance remains in orbit. Maintenance drones have kept her intact, but she's been dormant. Wake my crew, Doctor. All of them. In orbit around Earth, massive solar panels turned toward the sun. They gathered energy and sent it to the sleeping giants, the war titans that had defended humanity before. The USS Defiance was the largest, 12 kilometers of armored hull with weapons that could destroy small moons. For 50 years it had floated silently, its weapons cold, its engines quiet. Now lights began to appear along its dark surface. Inside, systems turned on. Computers ran checks. Weapon batteries charged. Shields hummed to life. Deep in its core, the dimensional drive that allowed it to jump instantly across vast distances began to warm up. The Defiance was not alone. 5 other Titan-class warships awakened. Retribution, Sovereign, Vigilant, Ironclad, and Nemesis. Each one was a city-sized fortress built for one purpose, to ensure humanity's survival against any threat. 3 days later, Captain Bennett stepped onto the bridge of the Defiance for the first time in 50 years. Her uniform felt strange. The fabric was different, the cut more modern, but the ship felt the same. She ran her hand along a control panel, feeling the familiar texture. All revival procedures complete, Captain, reported the ship's doctor. The crew is at 97% capacity. 3 deaths during revival, 17 with complications but recovering. Bennett nodded. Good numbers considering. Status of the ship? All primary systems operational, said Chief Engineer Kelly Sanderson, who had been revived just hours after Bennett. Secondary systems, at 92%. Weapons and shields at full capacity. Communications, get me Admiral Grayson, Bennett ordered. The main screen lit up, showing Grayson's weathered face. Time had not been kind to him. He had chosen to remain awake rather than join his comrades in stasis. Captain Bennett, he said, with a slight smile. Welcome back to the land of the living. Thank you, Admiral. We're ready to proceed. The Defiance remembers how to fight. I never doubted it, Grayson replied. Or you. His expression grew serious. Humanity needs you, Captain. All of you. Whatever destroyed New Haven is still out there. And I fear this is just the beginning. Bennett looked around at her crew. They had slept for 50 years, missing the lives they might have had. But they had made that choice willingly, knowing this day might come. We won't let you down, she said. We won't let humanity down. The SOS that awakened humanity's sleeping war titans, Captain Olivia Bennett, stood in the large observation room of the USS Defiance. The curved glass wall showed Earth below, blue and green and perfect. She had not seen it in 50 years, except in her dreams during the long sleep. Strange to see it again, said Lieutenant Joe Martinez, walking up beside her. He had been her weapons officer during the First Contact War. Now his uniform was new, but his eyes held the same steady calm she remembered. "It is," Bennett agreed. "Strangest part is that for us it feels like just last month we were fighting for its survival. And now we're doing it again," Martinez said quietly. Bridge Officer Lisa Green's voice came through the speakers. "Captain, Admiral Grayson requests your presence in the war room." Bennett touched the communication panel on her wrist. "On my way." The war room was at the center of the Defiance, protected by layers of armor. Inside, a large round table displayed a glowing map of human space. Red markers showed colonies that had gone silent since New Haven. Admiral Grayson stood with the captains of the other 5 awakened Titan ships. Captain Rick Alvarez of the Retribution, Captain Diane Wilson of the Sovereign, Captain Greg Morris of the Vigilant, Captain Ruth Chen of the Ironclad, and Captain Leo Barnes of the Nemesis. 7 colonies have gone silent, Grayson said without greeting. All in the outer sectors, all within 3 weeks. "Pattern?" asked Captain Chen, studying the map. "They're moving inward," Bennett observed. "Toward Earth." "Exactly," Grayson nodded. "Whatever they are, they're methodical. They take out communication systems first, then hit the main settlements." "Any survivors?" asked Captain Barnes. "None confirmed," Grayson replied grimly. "Rescue ships found only ruins." Bennett leaned forward. "We need intelligence. We can't fight what we don't understand." "Agreed," said Grayson. "That's why your first mission isn't combat, it's reconnaissance." He touched the map, enlarging the sector where New Haven had been. "We've detected energy signatures here, consistent with an alien presence. They appear to be establishing a forward base in the ruins of New Haven." "The Ghost," Bennett said immediately. The Ghost was the Defiance's stealth scout vessel, designed for deep reconnaissance in hostile territory. It was small, fast, and nearly impossible to detect with standard sensors. "Precisely," Grayson agreed. "We need eyes on the enemy." "I'll prepare." "The Ghost immediately," Bennett said. "My best pilot is Commander Nick Ramirez." "There's one more thing," Grayson added. "Our sensor technology has advanced since your time. The Intelligence Division has developed a new suite specifically for this mission." He gestured, and a woman stepped forward from the shadows of the room. "This is Dr. Laura Phillips. She'll join Commander Ramirez on the Ghost." Dr. Phillips was young, barely 30, with intense eyes and short black hair. "Captain," she nodded respectfully, "I've studied the records of your tactics from the First Contact War. It's an honor." Bennett sized her up quickly. "This is a military operation, Doctor. Can you handle yourself in a crisis?" "I spent 3 years on the frontier during the Sagittarius Rebellion," Phillips replied evenly. "I can handle myself." Bennett nodded, satisfied. "Meet Commander Ramirez in Hangar Base 7 in 1 hour." The Ghost was sleek and dark, shaped like a manta ray. Its hull absorbed light rather than reflecting it, making it difficult to see even up close. Inside, it was cramped but efficient, with just enough room for a crew of 4. Commander Nick Ramirez ran his hand along the pilot's controls. "Hello, beautiful," he said softly. "Miss me?" "I believe she was in storage for 50 years, Commander," Dr. Phillips said as she loaded equipment into the science station. "So technically she didn't have time to miss you." Ramirez grinned. "You don't understand the bond between a pilot and his ship, Doctor." Bennett entered the hangar as they were completing preparations. "Mission parameters," she said, handing Ramirez a small data chip. "Get in, gather all the intel you can, get out. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary." "Understood, Captain," Ramirez nodded. "Dr. Phillips," Bennett turned to the scientist. "What exactly does your new sensor suite do?" Phillips smiled slightly. "It allows us to see through dimensional distortions. If these aliens are using technology similar to our dimensional drives, we can track their movements, see through their cloaking fields, and even predict their jump points." "Impressive," Bennett admitted. "Just make sure it works." "It will," Phillips said confidently. Ramirez and Phillips boarded the Ghost with 2 security officers. The small craft detached from the Defiance and moved away silently, its engines barely visible as a faint blue glow. Dimensional jump in 3, 2, 1. Ramirez counted down. The ghost seemed to stretch, then vanished in a flash of light. Across the vast emptiness of space, it reappeared at the edge of the New Haven system. The planet below was unrecognizable. Once blue and green like Earth, it now appeared scorched and blackened. Its oceans boiled, sending clouds of steam into the atmosphere. "My God," whispered Ramirez, looking at the view screen. Dr. Phillips kept her eyes on her instruments. "I'm detecting debris consistent with our orbital defenses and something else." She adjusted her controls, enhancing the image. "Residual energy signatures, unlike anything in our database." "Alien ships?" Ramirez asked. "Yes, at least a dozen. Small patrol craft circling the planet." Phillips looked up, her face pale. "And something much larger on the far side of New Haven's moon." Ramirez guided the ghost toward the moon, staying in its shadow to avoid detection. As they circled to the far side, they saw it, a massive structure being built on the lunar surface. It looked like a communications array, but larger and more complex than anything humans had constructed. "That's a communication hub," Phillips whispered. "They're establishing a permanent presence here." Suddenly, her instruments beeped urgently. Movement. 6 patrol vessels on approach. Ramirez spun the ghost around, diving back into the moon's shadow. "Did they spot us?" Phillips studied her readings. "I don't think so. Routine patrol." She looked at her scanner again. "Wait. I might be able to intercept their communications, if I can tap into their network." For 20 tense minutes, Phillips worked while Ramirez kept the ghost hidden. The security officers watched the scanners for any sign they'd been detected. "I've got it," Phillips finally said. "I'm capturing data packets from their network, not enough to understand their language, but enough to track their movements and maybe determine their capabilities." As they prepared to leave, Phillips's scanner beeped again. Massive energy spike beyond the system's edge. More ships incoming. "Time to go," Ramirez said, firing up the dimensional drive. Jumping in 3, 2, 1. The ghost vanished just as the new alien ships appeared. A fleet of 20 larger vessels, their black hulls absorbing the light of New Haven's sun. Back aboard the Defiance, Bennett, Grayson, and the other captains gathered to review the data. Dr. Phillips stood at the display, explaining what they'd found. "They call themselves the Zarth Imperium," she said, showing images taken from the alien communications network. "Based on the data patterns, they're from beyond known space, expanding through conquest. New Haven was merely their first encounter with humanity, and they decided we weren't worth talking to," Captain Wilson said grimly. "Worse," Phillips continued. "They deemed our species unworthy of continued existence. Their communications refer to cleansing and purification. This isn't a territorial dispute or a resource grab. It's extinction." The room was silent as this sank in. "Most concerning," Phillips added, "is this." She brought up a tactical display showing movement paths across the galaxy. 7 more invasion fleets already en route to human colonies. Bennett studied the display, her mind already forming strategies. "How long until they reach the next colony?" 3 days, Phillips replied. "The Horizon colony will be their next target." Bennett looked at Grayson and the other captains. "Then we have 3 days to prepare a proper welcome for them. The SOS that awakened humanity's sleeping war titans." The war room of the USS Defiance was filled with tension as Captain Bennett outlined her plan. The holographic display showed the Horizon colony system, with its gas giant planet and the 17 moons that orbited it. The human settlement was on the largest moon, home to over 20,000 colonists. "The Zarth fleet will arrive in 3 days," Bennett said. "We'll be waiting for them." Admiral Grayson studied the plan. "You want to hide our ships among the moons?" "Exactly," Bennett nodded. "Dr. Phillips's data shows the Zarth rely on direct line of sight for their weapons. The moons will provide cover until we're ready to strike." Lieutenant Diane Freeman, the Defiance's tactical officer, stepped forward. She was young by the standards of the awakened crew, only 35 when she went into stasis. Their ships are fast and maneuverable, but they have a weakness, she said, highlighting sections of the alien vessels on the display. Their shield generators are external. One good hit there and the entire ship is vulnerable. Hit-and-run tactics, Captain Greg Morris of the Vigilant suggested. We jump in, target their shield generators, jump out. Precisely, Bennett agreed. We can't match their numbers, but we can outsmart them. Chief Engineer Kelly Sanderson cleared her throat. Captain, the dimensional drives on all 6 ships are at full capacity, but repeated jumps will drain our power reserves quickly. How many jumps per ship? Bennett asked. 4, maybe 5 in rapid succession before we need to recharge, Sanderson replied. Bennett considered this. Then we make each jump count. The plan was set. The 6 Titan-class warships would position themselves within the dense field of moons orbiting Horizon's gas giant. When the Zarth fleet arrived, they would execute a series of coordinated dimensional jumps, appearing at different points around the enemy formation, targeting their shield generators, then jumping to new positions, before the Zarth could respond. What about the colonists? Asked Captain Ruth Chen of the Ironclad. Evacuation ships are already en route, Admiral Grayson assured her. They should have most of the population off-world before the Zarth arrive. Over the next 2 days, the War Titans moved into position around Horizon. They hid behind different moons, their sensors watching, waiting. Evacuation ships worked non-stop, carrying colonists to safety. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Bennett sat in her command chair, watching the clock count down. Status of the evacuation? She asked. Communications Officer Alex Reed checked his console. 87% complete, Captain. The last ships are loading now. Enemy update? Bennett turned to Dr. Phillips, who had remained aboard the Defiance after the Ghost mission. The Zarth fleet will exit dimensional space in approximately 20 minutes, Phillips reported. 23 vessels detected. Bennett took a deep breath. All hands to battle stations. Inform all ships. Prepare to execute Plan Thunderbolt. On my mark. Throughout the massive ship, warning lights flashed as crew members ran to their posts. In the engine room, Chief Sanderson monitored the dimensional drive, making final adjustments. In weapons control, Lieutenant Martinez powered up the main guns. Evacuation complete, Reed announced. Last ships are away. Bennett nodded. Good. At least the people are safe. The minutes ticked by slowly. Then Phillips looked up from her station. Dimensional distortion detected. They're here. On the main view screen, space seemed to ripple, then tear open. Black ships emerged, their hulls absorbing the light from the nearby sun. They moved with unnatural grace, spreading out in a search pattern. They're scanning the colony, Phillips reported. Bennett opened a communication channel to all 6 human warships. All vessels, this is Captain Bennett. On my mark. 3, 2, 1. Execute Thunderbolt. The USS Defiance vanished in a flash of light, its dimensional drive bending space around it. It reappeared directly behind 2 Zarth vessels. Before the alien ships could react, the Defiance fired its main guns. Beams of concentrated energy struck the shield generators on both enemy vessels, destroying them instantly. Across the Horizon system, the other Titan ships performed similar maneuvers. The USS Vigilant appeared above a group of 3 Zarth ships, its weapons blazing. The USS Retribution hit the largest enemy vessel with a full broadside attack. Jump to position 2. Bennett ordered as the Zarth ships began to turn toward them. The Defiance vanished again, reappearing at a different position in the enemy formation. Again, its weapons found their targets with deadly precision. The battle was chaotic, but the human ships moved with perfect coordination. They appeared, fired, and disappeared before the Zarth could lock their weapons. It was like fighting ghosts. Sir, Phillips called out, her voice urgent. They're adapting, changing their shield configurations. On the view screen, the remaining Zarth vessels began to glow with a strange purple light. Their shields were growing stronger, adapting to the human attacks. They're quick learners, Bennett said grimly. Time for Phase 2. Notify all ships. The next series of jumps brought all 6 Titan ships into a circular formation around the Zarth fleet. Instead of targeting individual vessels, they fired in unison, creating a web of energy that trapped the enemy ships. Full power to forward shields, Bennett ordered as the Zarth returned fire. The Defiance shuddered as enemy weapons struck its barriers. Shields holding at 70%, reported the defense officer. Concentrate fire on their flagship, Bennett commanded. The combined firepower of 6 Titan-class warships converged on the largest Zarth vessel. For a moment, its shields flared brightly, trying to resist. Then they collapsed and the ship's hull began to break apart. "The rest are retreating," Phillips announced as the remaining Zarth ships began to move away, opening dimensional portals to escape. "Do we pursue?" asked Martinez. Bennett shook her head. "No. Let them run. Let them tell the others what happened here." As the last Zarth ship disappeared, a cheer went up across the bridge, but Bennett remained serious. "This was just one fleet," she reminded them. "There are 6 more out there, and now they know what we can do." In the aftermath of the battle, the 6 Titan ships regrouped near Horizon's moon. Repair teams worked to fix damage and recharge dimensional drives. In the Defiance's medical bay, doctors treated the wounded. Admiral Grayson's face appeared on the main screen. "Well done, Captain. The Security Council is pleased." "The colonists?" Bennett asked. "They'll begin returning tomorrow," Grayson assured her. "But we have new intelligence you need to see." The screen changed to show a star map. Red dots marked the positions of approaching Zarth fleets. "They're changing course," Grayson explained. "All of them, heading directly for Earth." Bennett stared at the map, her mind racing. The victory at Horizon had been significant, but it had also revealed humanity's strengths to the enemy. Now, instead of attacking colonies one by one, the Zarth were gathering for a single massive strike against Earth itself. "How long do we have?" she asked. 8 days, Grayson replied grimly. "Maybe less." Bennett straightened her shoulders. "Then we have preparations to make. The battle for Horizon was the beginning. The battle for Earth will decide everything." As she looked around at her tired but determined crew, Bennett felt a strange mixture of pride and fear. They had awakened to fight for humanity once more and had won their first engagement, but the real test was still to come. "Send word to Earth," she told Communications Officer Reed. "Tell them to activate everything we have. Every ship, every weapon. We're going to need it all." The SOS that awakened humanity's sleeping war titans Earth was preparing for war. In the 8 days since the battle at Horizon, humanity had mobilized on a scale not seen in 50 years. The remaining 8 Titan-class warships had been awakened from their orbital slumber. Their crews, like Bennett's, had been in suspended animation for decades. Now they joined the 6 already active ships. Captain Bennett stood in Earth's orbital command center with Admiral Grayson and the 13 other Titan ship captains. The large window showed Earth below, beautiful and blue. Around them, staff officers rushed back and forth coordinating defense preparations. 14 Titan-class warships, Admiral Grayson said, looking at the display showing their fleet. "The most powerful vessels ever built by human hands." "Against how many enemy ships?" asked Captain Leo Barnes of the Nemesis. Dr. Phillips stepped forward. She had become the fleet's expert on the Zarth. "We estimate a combined force of at least 100 vessels, including their flagship, the World Cleaver." The room went quiet. Everyone knew those odds. "We've survived bad odds before," Bennett reminded them. "During the First Contact War, the Defiance faced 12 enemy dreadnoughts alone at the Battle of Proxima. And won," added Captain Rick Alvarez of the Retribution. "I remember. I was there." "We won because we were smarter," Bennett said. "We need to be smarter again." She moved to the central display and brought up images of the Zarth ships captured during the Horizon battle. "Dr. Phillips and I have been studying their tactics. They're disciplined, mathematical. They follow patterns." "What does that mean for us?" asked Captain Wilson of the Sovereign. "It means they're predictable," Bennett replied. "And Lieutenant Freeman has found another weakness." Freeman stepped forward, looking nervous among so many senior officers. "The Zarth use dimensional technology similar to ours, but with one key difference. Their jump calculations are rigid. They can only jump along certain vectors. In simple terms, Bennett explained, we can predict where they'll appear and where they can go when they retreat. We can set traps. What kind of traps? Asked a newly awakened captain named Paul Jackson of the Titan ship Valiant. Bennett smiled slightly. The kind that go boom. The plan took shape over the next 2 days. Earth's orbital defense platforms were repositioned. Automated weapon satellites were placed at specific coordinates. The 14 Titan ships would be divided into 3 battle groups, using hit-and-run tactics to separate the Zarth fleet into smaller, more manageable sections. Remember, Bennett told her crew during the final briefing aboard the Defiance, we're fighting for the survival of our species. But more than that, we're fighting for the right of all intelligent life to exist without fear of extinction. The Zarth believe they have the right to cleanse the galaxy of those they deem unworthy. We're going to show them otherwise. The crew nodded, their faces serious but determined. Dr. Phillips has one more piece of information to share, Bennett added, nodding to the scientist. Phillips looked tired. She had been working non-stop since the Horizon battle. We've managed to partially translate their communication protocols. We believe we can now broadcast messages they'll understand. Why would we want to talk to them? Asked Lieutenant Martinez. They didn't exactly come to chat. Because, Bennett said quietly, despite what they've done, we need to offer them a choice, retreat or be destroyed. That's what makes us different from them. The warning came 2 days early. The long-range sensors near Neptune detected dimensional distortions. The Zarth fleet had arrived at the edge of the solar system. On the bridge of the Defiance, Bennett watched the tactical display as the enemy ships appeared. Count? 97 vessels, Phillips reported, plus the World Cleaver. It's enormous. The display showed the Zarth flagship, a massive vessel shaped like a crescent moon, its surface covered in weapon ports. All ships, this is Captain Bennett, she broadcast to the fleet. Battle Plan Cerberus is now in effect. Group Alpha will engage first. Groups Beta and Gamma stand by. The Defiance led 4 other Titan ships toward the approaching Zarth fleet. The rest of the human fleet held position near Earth. When they were within communication range, Bennett nodded to Phillips. Open a channel. Phillips worked at her console. Channel open, they can hear you. Bennett took a deep breath. Attention, Zarth vessels. This is Captain Olivia Bennett of the United Earth Alliance. Your unprovoked attacks on our colonies constitute an act of war. We offer you this one opportunity. Withdraw from our space immediately or face destruction. We do not seek conflict, but we will defend our existence with all necessary force. There was a long pause. Then the main screen flickered, showing an alien face for the first time. The Zarth commander had pale, translucent skin that shifted colors as he spoke. His eyes were large and entirely black. Your species has been judged, the alien said, his voice oddly musical despite the harsh words. You have proven unexpected in your resistance, but the purification cannot be stopped. The unworthy must be cleansed to make space for the worthy. Who decides who is worthy? Bennett asked. We do, the Zarth replied simply. As we have for 10,000 years, 12 species have been purified before you. You will be the 13th. Bennett leaned forward. Those other species, did they have war titans? Without waiting for an answer, she closed the channel. All ships in Group Alpha, execute jump pattern Sierra now. The 5 human warships vanished, reappearing at different points around the edge of the Zarth fleet. They fired simultaneously, targeting the outer vessels. 20 Zarth ships were hit in the first salvo. Jump to position 2, Bennett ordered. The Alpha Group ships jumped again, hitting the enemy from a new angle before they could respond. More Zarth vessels erupted in flames. They're dividing to pursue, Phillips reported as the Zarth fleet broke into smaller groups. Just as we wanted, Bennett said with grim satisfaction. Send the signal to groups Beta and Gamma. Spring the trap. Near Earth, the remaining 9 Titan ships jumped into action. They appeared behind the now separated sections of the Zarth fleet, catching them in crossfire. At the same time, The automated weapon platforms placed along the predicted Zarth jump vectors activated. When enemy ships tried to jump away, they emerged directly in front of waiting weapons. The battle raged across the solar system. Ships jumped in and out of dimensional space, appearing, firing, vanishing again. The space around Earth lit up with weapons fire and exploding vessels. On the Defiance, alarms blared as the ship took hits. "Shields at 50%, called the defense officer. "Reroute power from secondary systems," Bennett ordered. "Keep those shields up." Through the chaos, Bennett kept her focus on one target, the World Cleaver. The massive Zarth flagship hung back, directing the battle but not engaging directly. "Group Alpha, new target," Bennett commanded. "All ships focus on the World Cleaver, jump pattern Omega." The 5 Titan ships vanished, then reappeared surrounding the Zarth flagship. Their combined firepower struck the massive vessel from all sides. The World Cleaver's shields flared brilliantly under the assault. For a moment it seemed they would hold. Then, section by section, they began to fail. "Keep firing," Bennett ordered. "Don't let up." The Defiance shuddered as return fire from the World Cleaver struck its hull. "Direct hit," someone shouted. "Deck 7 reports breaches." Bennett held onto her command chair as the ship rocked. "Maintain fire pattern, we almost have them." With a final, desperate barrage, the 5 Titan ships poured everything they had into the Zarth flagship. The World Cleaver's shields collapsed completely, and beams of energy tore into its hull. Explosions rippled along its surface. "They're breaking apart," Phillips reported. On the view screen, the mighty World Cleaver began to split down the middle, secondary explosions tearing through its interior. With a final massive detonation, the Zarth flagship was destroyed. Throughout the solar system, the remaining Zarth ships began to retreat, jumping away in all directions. "Should we pursue?" asked Captain Morris of the Vigilant over the comm. Bennett watched the fleeing enemy ships. "No, let them go. Let them tell others what happens when you threaten humanity." As the battle ended, Bennett looked at the damage reports coming in. 3 Titan ships severely damaged, thousands of crew members injured or dead. But Earth was safe. Humanity would survive. She opened a channel to all human ships. "This is Captain Bennett. The enemy is retreating. Well done, everyone. Well done." The SOS that awakened humanity's sleeping war titans. 3 weeks had passed since the Battle of Earth. The Zarth fleet had been defeated, their mighty World Cleaver destroyed. But victory had come at a cost. 3 Titan ships had been lost. Thousands of crew members had died. The orbital defenses around Earth had been badly damaged. Captain Olivia Bennett stood in the observation lounge of the USS Defiance, looking out at the stars. Repair crews worked outside, fixing damage to the hull. The Eye ship had taken heavy hits during the battle, but she was strong. She would fly again. "Captain," said a voice behind her. Bennett turned to see Admiral Grayson. He looked tired but satisfied. "Admiral," she nodded. "I didn't expect to see you aboard." "I wanted to deliver this in person," Grayson said, handing her a data tablet. "The latest intelligence report from the outer colonies." Bennett read it quickly. "The Zarth are withdrawing from our space," she said, sounding surprised. "All across the frontier," Grayson confirmed. "They're pulling back to their own territory." "They're giving up?" Bennett asked, finding it hard to believe. "After just one defeat?" "Not giving up," Grayson corrected her. "Reassessing. According to Dr. Phillips's analysis of their communications, they've never encountered a species that could defeat their main fleet before. We've confused them." Bennett smiled slightly. "Good. Let them stay confused." "There's more," Grayson added. "The Security Council has made a decision about you and your crews." Bennett tensed. She and the other awakened captains had discussed this among themselves. What would happen to them now? Would they be asked to go back into suspended animation? To sleep again until the next crisis? Or would they be expected to somehow fit into a world that had moved on without them for 50 years? "What's the decision?" she asked quietly. "You're being given a choice," Grayson replied. "Any crew member who wishes to return to civilian life will be provided with housing, education, and financial support to help them adjust to the current time. Those who wish to remain in service will keep their ranks and commands. And the ships? Bennett asked. The Titans? Will remain active, Grayson said firmly. The Security Council has realized their mistake. We thought 50 years of peace meant we could let our guard down. We were wrong. The Titans will patrol our borders, protect our colonies, and make sure nothing like the Zarth attack ever happens again. Bennett felt relief wash over her. The Titans would not return to being museum pieces. Their crews would not be forgotten again. Thank you, Admiral, she said. I'll inform my crew of their options. Later that day, Bennett called her senior officers to the Defiance's briefing room. Lieutenant Martinez, Chief Sanderson, Lieutenant Freeman, Communications Officer Reed, and Dr. Phillips sat around the table. You've all heard the news, Bennett said. We're being given a choice: return to civilian life or stay with the ship. They looked at each other. Martinez spoke first. I went to sleep knowing I might wake to a world I didn't recognize. That happened. The only familiar thing now is this ship and this crew. I'm staying. Sanderson nodded. The Defiance needs her, Chief Engineer. I'm staying too. One by one, they all said the same. Even Dr. Phillips, who had not been part of the original crew, asked to remain aboard as the ship's science officer. What about you, Captain? Reed asked. Are you staying? Bennett looked around at their faces. This was her family now. Try to get rid of me, she said with a smile. 2 months later, the USS Defiance was ready to depart Earth orbit on its first official patrol mission. The ship had been fully repaired and upgraded with the latest technology. The crew had been training hard, integrating the awakened veterans with new recruits. On the bridge, Bennett sat in her command chair. Martinez was at tactical, Sanderson was in engineering, Freeman at navigation, Reed at communications, and Phillips at the science station. Course laid in, Captain, Freeman reported. The frontier sector awaits. Engine room reports ready. Sanderson's voice came through the comm. Bennett looked around at her crew, feeling a sense of rightness. Communications, send our departure message to Earth Command. Message sent, Reed confirmed. They wish us good hunting. Bennett nodded. Lieutenant Freeman, take us out. Half power until we clear Earth orbit. The massive ship began to move away from Earth, its engines glowing blue against the blackness of space. Captain, Dr. Phillips called from her station. I'm picking up a transmission from the USS Vigilant. On screen, Bennett ordered. Captain Greg Morris appeared on the main view screen. His ship had also been repaired and was preparing for its own patrol mission. Captain Bennett, he said with a smile. Looks like we're both heading out to keep the peace. Indeed we are, Bennett replied. The Defiance is ready for whatever comes next. As is the Vigilant, Morris agreed. Though I hope it's a bit less exciting than our welcome back party, Bennett laughed. Agreed. Safe travels, Greg. As the Defiance reached the edge of Earth's gravity well, Bennett gave the order she had been waiting for. Prepare dimensional jump. The bridge crew worked at their stations, calculating the jump coordinates. Ready, Captain, Freeman reported. Jump, Bennett commanded. The stars outside the view screen stretched into lines, then vanished as the Defiance entered dimensional space. Moments later, it reappeared light years away, at the edge of human territory. Bennett stood from her command chair and walked to the front of the bridge, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Zarth were licking their wounds, perhaps planning another attack. Or maybe they had truly decided humanity was too much trouble. There were other threats too, known and unknown. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but now humanity was awake and watchful. The sleeping Titans had risen and they would not rest again. Bennett and her crew, people out of time, had found their purpose in this new age. They were guardians now, standing between humanity and the darkness. Status report, Bennett said, returning to her chair. All systems normal, Martinez replied. No vessels detected in sensor range. Good, Bennett nodded. Begin standard patrol. Pattern. Keep sensors at maximum range. Let's let everyone know we're here. As the Defiance moved through space, its massive hull gleaming in the light of distant stars, Bennett felt a sense of peace despite the uncertain future. When the distress call had come from New Haven, it had awakened more than just dormant warships. It had awakened humanity's resolve, its will to survive. The War Titans would continue their watch, ready to answer any call for help. And Captain Olivia Bennett would be there leading the way, protecting the future of the species that had given her a second chance at life. "Captain," Reed called from his station. "Message from Outpost 7. They're sending greetings and thanks for our protection." Bennett smiled. "Send them our regards, Officer Reed. Tell them the Defiance stands ready." "Always,"